Hey everybody, Ray here. You know, I've got a couple of tents that I use for camping, but I consistently come back to this Lanshan 2 tent by 3UFL Gear. It's probably about 5 years old, and I really like it. It's spacious enough, it sets up with my trekking poles, it only weighs about 2 pounds, so it's easy to carry around, and I've just really enjoyed using it. Now I'll tell you what, over the 4 or 5 years that I've had this tent, I've made multiple modifications to it. As you know, there are all kinds of people out there on YouTube showing you how to modify these tents. So just about every time I take it out, I modify something else just to try it and see how it works. I think I've gotten it to the point where I think it's just about perfect for me. And tonight we're supposed to get 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts. It's pretty windy right now, but at 45 miles per hour, I think this thing is going to be blowing around pretty good. So I did some extra staking and so forth, and I'll show you that too when I show you my modifications. So if you're interested in what I've done, stick around. I'd be glad to show you. Let's start with the main guy line. When you get this tent from Lanshan, it goes down this way to the peg, and then it comes back and it connects to the door. I have found that one longer line here and separating it from the door works better. You can get a tighter pitch across the top of your tent along the ridge there, and this piece here is just easier to set up as a single line instead of a double line. Now let's talk about how I've anchored the doors. So rather than have that line come back this way from the peg to pull the doors out at the same time as pulling on the ridge line, what I found is this trick where you just actually you can use one peg or you can use 2 pegs. I use 2 because normally I use this door to get in and out of because that's the side that the inside opens up from. So if I want to get out that side, all I have to do is just take this off of this peg and then zip it up and open this door right here. The other thing that it does is you set these pegs up, one going this way and one going this way. So what it does is it keeps this door a little bit tighter because in the original setup, they will tend to flop around a little bit. So this works out really well. In addition to having just the one line coming out of the tent, what I've done is change this configuration as well. What I did was I added about, a 14, 16-inch piece of line that goes from the top down to the bottom here for the 2 anchor points. And I have found that this gives me a lot more flexibility in making sure that I have a good taut ridge line. There are 2 things that I've done on the side. One is the guy line from the side of the tent, I've added a piece of bungee cord on here because if this pulls too tight, then what happens is you get that buckling in your tent there. You don't want that. You want that to be just as flat as possible. So what this bungee cord tied in the middle of the guy line does is it just gives it a little bit of play. So if the wind's blowing it, it can play in a little bit like that. And when it's not, it'll stay out nice and taut. In addition, because it's nylon, if it gets wet, it will tend to stretch a little bit. So if you've got this pulled out with the bungee, even if it stretches, that bungee will keep it a little bit more taut. The second thing I've done, and this is because of the winds we're expecting tonight, is I've added a little clip here that connects to a bungee down to a peg right there. And what this does is it gives me a little bit more strength in the side here so the wind won't blow the tent quite so much. I should mention that I've got my trekking pole set to 120. You can go anywhere between 115, 125 or so. I left it at 120. I could go lower because of the wind, but I don't think I need to because I want the headroom. And speaking of headroom, what I've done on this side of the tent is when I guide out the side, and it's got that same bungee cord set up on this side, when I guide out the side, I brought it down to a stick here and then down to my peg. And what that does is it pulls up on the tent a little bit. This is the side where I'm going to have my head, so I want just a little bit more space. And then down here you can see that I've added that extra clip with the peg down here as well. Also what I've done is to double peg the main guy line. So you can see that I've got a peg right here, and then behind it I've got a second peg holding on to the first peg. So the wind have to blow pretty hard to knock both of those pegs out. I did that on both sides of the tent on the main guy line. Another nice little modification is just to add a little piece of bungee with a cord lock on here, and then you can coil up your guy line and just attach it right to here, and then it keeps it from getting all tangled up with other guy lines. So I've done that to both of the main guy lines as well as the sidewall guy lines. So as I said, when it's time to take down the tent, you just release your cord and then start to coil it up. Then when you get up to the top, I just take that nice coil and I double it over and sneak it right into that bungee and zip up your cord lock. Now they'll stay nice and neat for the next time you're ready to use this tent. I think about the only modification that I did to the inside was to add this line to hang things on. And there's two hooks on the inside of the Lanshan tent. And then I just added this line and I made it adjustable so, you know, I can have it tighter or looser depending on what I want to hang on it. And one thing I have noticed is that when I'm laying back in the tent, I can actually hang my iPad on here, because I bring my iPad with me sometimes to watch something before I go to sleep, and it just hangs on there and I can look up and watch it, and it works really well. The other thing you can do is hang, you know, obviously you can hang lights on here, socks, anything you want to dry out overnight. It gives you a place to do that. So you can see with these modifications that I've made, the tent is really pitched well. It's really nice and taut. The doors are tight. All of my lines are tight. One of the most important things on this tent is to have a nice tight ridge line. That's the beginning of it all right there. And it's really nice and tight. And all the way around the other side here where I've got it pulled out for my head, it's nice and flat and taut. So it's 1 a.m. Really quite windy. Everything outside is fine. The gusts really crank up. When you're inside the tent, you can really hear the wind gusts. This configuration, I think, really works well. If you're into the Lanshan tent, you might want to think about some of these modifications.